Whenever a fan favorite character gets their own show, normally people love it. I mean, we all remember Joey, right? But that was not the case with Velma. Because how did she go from being the smartest, most lovable detective in Mystery Inc. to this? And then this.
You're dead!
Well, I guess we're about to find out. Today, we're breaking down the full story of Velma, episode by episode, so you don't have to suffer. Experience it alone. Alright, so Season 1 aired on January 2023 on HBO Max. And quick heads up before we start, this is an adult animated Scooby-Doo spin-off, focusing on Velma before Mystery Inc. was even a thing. Which means there's no Scooby-Doo at all, just so you know. So the story begins at the girls' locker room where a group of popular girls are, showering, and two of them start fighting over something ridiculous. That's when Velma Dinkley enters in a weird-looking cloak. After yet another pointless argument, Velma opens her locker, and one of their classmates, Brenda, is found dead inside with her brains missing. Yeah, we're gonna start the show like that. And somehow, Velma ends up being the prime suspect, mostly because, well, she's kinda weird, and not exactly liked by everybody. At the police station, we find out Velma is also struggling with panic attacks and hallucinations after her mother, Dia, went missing 2 years ago. The investigating officers, who also happen to be her former best friend's adoptive moms, Linda and Donna, give her 24 hours to prove that she's innocent. However, if she can't figure it out, she's getting arrested. How is that justice? Here's the problem. Velma used to solve mysteries, but not anymore. In her head, that's what made her mom go missing. Soon after that, we meet Fred, who's a spoiled, rich, self-obsessed playboy.
I have a disease where I can't recognize people who aren't hot. My doctor says it's basically sickle cell for rich guys.
And he's dating Daphne. Yeah, the very same former best friend who ditched Velma after she got hot and popular. After this, we see a bit of Velma's daily life, which is just her and her dad, and his new girlfriend, Sophie. Sorry, couldn't help myself there. At the suggestion of Sophie, Velma starts working at her restaurant, Spooner's. And coincidentally, this is also where Brenda's funeral is being held, which is very weird. During the funeral, Daphne publicly announces that Velma is the main suspect of Brenda's murder, so now everybody thinks that she's weird and a killer. Great. Later, Velma steps outside and runs into Fred. He opens up about how he can't stop crying since Brenda died. Okay, we got a man who's not scared to show his emotions. That's great, we love that. Velma tries to relate and tells him about her own tragic backstory. 2 years ago, she accidentally ruined Christmas by finding her presents early. To fix it, her mom went out to get her another gift, but never came back. Her mother's van was later found abandoned with just her glasses and the present that she got for Velma inside. Since then, every time Velma tries to solve a mystery, she gets hallucinations, which explains what happened at the police station earlier. So for her, solving this case is not just difficult, it's something she has been actively avoiding. Fred appreciates the story, but still leaves because he does not want to be seen talking to her. Okay, I take my praise from earlier back, he's a jerk. Once a jerk, always a jerk. Next we meet Norville, who you might know as Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, but he doesn't go by that name yet. He tells Velma that he might have a lead on the murder. He had sent Brenda to investigate the restaurant Spooner's for the school paper, and she took his camera with her. She apparently saw something strange in the bathroom, took a picture of it, but now the camera's missing and she's, well,
D-E-D, dead.
Velma thinks if they could find the camera, it could lead them to the actual murderer. And that's when she remembers. Sophie, her potential new stepmom, has a brand new camera which she probably couldn't afford, and she works at the Spooners too. Can't be just a coincidence, right? So she starts spying and finds the camera, but it turns out to not be Norville's. And the big secret behind Spooners being so popular? It's not anything illegal, it's just that the food's really good, plus the fact that Sophie lets teenagers do the hanky-panky in the bathroom. Meanwhile, Velma's dad tries to calm her down during one of her hallucinations and tells her that her mom did not disappear because of her solving mysteries. According to him, she just left. The next day, Velma comes to school with a new look, but that doesn't really help her because people still think that she's a killer. Fred stands up for her, but that only makes things more awkward. Daphne gets annoyed and tells Velma she can have Fred if she wants him, pointing out that Fred has his own issues, like the fact that he throws everybody out of the bathroom at Spooner's when he has to use it. What is these high schoolers' obsession with bathrooms? As soon as Daphne leaves, Velma connects the dots. Bathroom, Fred, Brenda, camera, Spooner's. She asks Norville to take her to Fred's house to see if they can find his camera there. She sneaks in, and she starts looking for clues, but her hallucinations return. This time they get worse. She almost gives up. But Norville, who's on the phone with her, starts encouraging her, even admits he has feelings for her. She thinks that it's a funny joke, and that helps her snap out of it. Only, he was being honest. Poor guy. Inside Fred's room, Velma finds Norville's camera. On it are pictures of Fred inside the Spooner's bathroom, acting pretty sus. At that moment, Fred walks in and tells her his big secret that he hasn't gone through puberty yet, which makes him a little too self-conscious. He says Brenda took pictures of him, and he did what he had to do. Now he's going to do the same thing to her. Fred walks towards Velma and reaches into his robe, which makes everything look even worse. But before anything happens, the police show up and shoot him in the knees. Ouch. He claims he was just going to pay her to stay quiet, but they arrest him anyway. For a moment, it looks like the case is solved. Later, Norville drops Velma home. She admits that her hallucinations came back because deep down, she does not believe her mom left. She still feels responsible. And just when things seem to settle, Norville notices something strange outside. There are cockroaches gathering around a garbage can. When he opens it, they find yet another dead body of another classmate, Krista, also missing her brains. So, yeah, the mystery is most certainly not over. So after Krista's discovered, Fred Jones is officially arrested for both murders. Case closed, or at least that's what everybody thinks. Things are not that simple. And the only lawyer who decided to take Fred's case is none other than Velma's own father, Aman. His whole plan is to prove that Fred is way too immature to be a killer and make a lot of money off of his wealthy and very desperate parents. Talk about priorities. Meanwhile, Velma has her own priorities set. She wants access to her mom's case file, and the only person who can help her is Daphne. But of course, Daphne is not going to help Velma, especially after she got her boyfriend arrested. At least, not for free.
I'll give you the file.
Really?
For $500.
$500? That's like $1 million.
Desperate for the file, Velma turns to Norville for help. When she gets to his place, she runs into officers Linda and Donna, who reveal that they're going undercover as high school students to track down the Candy Man who's been supplying drugs to the school. So now, on top of everything else, there's a whole undercover operation happening too. Meanwhile, Norville, just like any guy who's down bad, sees Velma's money problem as a chance to get her to date him. He does not have the money, but that does not stop him from trying. He goes through a bunch of ideas to get it, and at one point, he's even ready to sell a kidney, none of which really works. But hey, effort counts for something. In the end, he manages to get the $500 for getting the bad guys arrested, but decides he would rather get Velma to date him by being himself. On the other hand, Velma has no clue what Norville's been up to, tells Daphne she can't pay her. To her surprise, Daphne gives her another option: work for her. Now this is where things get interesting, because remember the Candy Man? Well, it's Daphne who's been selling drugs to make money. More like Candy Woman. That was pretty good. And she's no clue her moms are out there to get her. Anyway, Velma agrees, but as you can guess, she's terrible at it. She keeps judging people instead of actually selling anything, which kind of defeats the whole purpose. Daphne gets frustrated and calls her out. She tells Velma that she thinks she understands everybody. She really does not. And for once, Velma does not have a comeback. We also learn that Daphne is not doing this just to rebel against her moms. She's trying to earn enough money to hire a private investigator and find her real parents. So there's more going on with her than it seems. At one point, Linda and Donna almost catch them in the act, but Velma and Daphne manage to escape without being recognized. After that, the two actually have a moment where things feel normal again.
Sorry, I was just wiping some garbage slime off your cheek.
Oh, yeah, me too. Slime.
Okay, well.
I'm not sure if that's their normal, but I am glad they're making up. Moving on from the awkwardness, Velma goes on to make one last deal, and the buyer turns out to be, drumroll please, her own father. So now we're in the middle of yet another awkward conversation back at the Dinkley house. Aman makes a deal with her about giving her the money for the case file if she helps him prove that Fred is innocent. Velma agrees, even though she clearly does not like admitting that she might be wrong. So Velma decides to meet Fred again, take a closer look at things. This time she actually pays attention, and slowly realizes Fred might not be the killer. The guy is way too pampered to pull something like this off. Next day in court, Velma admits that she made a mistake. She explains that Fred cannot even do basic things on his own, like cutting his own steak, let alone taking somebody's brains out. People start looking at him as an overprotected kid, and he's just moments away from being cleared when all the people talking and laughing at him really gets to him, and Fred gets very emotional and angry. Gets on top of the table and announces that he could have committed the murders if he wanted to. No, Freddy. Just like that, he's declared guilty. Again, after all this chaos, Daphne shows up at Velma's place and gives her the case file. This is where things take another turn. Velma finds a clue. The last location of her mom's phone was near Fred's house. That instantly connects everything in her head, and her hallucinations come back stronger than before. Daphne tries to snap her out of it, but nothing works at first. And then out of nowhere, she kisses her. And it works. But then Velma kisses her back again and, whoa, ladies, I think we all knew that they were more than just friends. Right at the moment, Norville shows up to confess his feelings to Velma and...
Now even just being myself won't work. Rom-coms can kiss my ass.
No wonder he ends up being best friends with a dog. So after that very unexpected moment between Velma and Daphne, things get even more complicated. The next day, Norville pulls Velma aside and tells her he saw everything. By everything, he means the kiss. He then very directly asks her if she's into girls, which Velma immediately shuts down. Now, yes, he's being a little direct here, but also, he just watched the girl he likes kiss her former best friend. The school decides it's the perfect time to address all the recent chaos, aka students getting murdered, by hosting a mental health assembly. At the same time, Daphne's moms also step in to run a self-defense class for the girls, to protect themselves from any future serial killers. Okay, I have so much to say here.
Why don't the boys have to take a Don't Murder Girls class?
For a very terrible show, they've got some pretty good takes. You go, Velma, take that stupid principal. Refusing to listen to more of this nonsense, Velma and Norville decide to visit Fred in jail, hoping he might have some answers about the night her mom disappeared. But before they can even meet him, Velma gets hit with another hallucination. This time, it's triggered by the case file and the fact that she's confused about her sexuality. She completely loses control, causes a scene, gets herself banned from the prison. So yeah, no answers from Fred. Back at school, Velma and Daphne finally get a moment alone to talk about the kiss. Or at least they try to. Both of them immediately get defensive and pretend like it meant nothing. So instead of clearing things up, they somehow make everything even more awkward. And now, on top of everything else, they're also competing against each other in a self-defense tournament. A tournament arc? Okay. On the other hand, Norville decides to go back to jail on his own to talk to Fred. He pretends he's there to help Fred emotionally, but really he's trying to get him to speak about Dia and the night she went missing. Again, it doesn't work. So Norville goes to his dad, Lamont, who also happens to be the school counselor. His dad gives him one thing he believes every good therapist needs. A cardigan. Yeah, a cardigan. That's the standard, guys. You know, the funny part is, it actually works. Norville goes back, puts it on, and suddenly Fred starts opening up. He reveals that the night Velma's mom disappeared, his family had just bought their house, and his dad was planning to burn it down for insurance money. Which is insane, but we'll judge him for that later. Before he can do this, Dia shows up. That's all Fred could tell him because the cardigan stops working after this. So now, at least we know that Fred's house is officially connected to Velma's mom's disappearance. Back at school, the tournament continues, and both Velma and Daphne make it to the finals. Right before the match, Velma finally admits that she does in fact like Daphne, but Daphne shuts it down, saying she's more at stake than Velma does. And Velma, being Velma, takes that extremely personally. To get back at Daphne, she decides to sabotage her. She steals her journal and exposes the fact that Daphne has been seeing the school counselor, hoping this would make Daphne vulnerable and break her cool girl identity. Instead, everybody supports Daphne. So Velma not only loses the match, she also ends up getting into trouble for making fun about somebody's mental health and is forced to apologize. At this point, she finally starts reflecting on her behavior. She realizes she's been avoiding her feelings, pushing people away, especially Daphne. Meanwhile, Norville shares what he learned from Fred. And once again, looks like Fred might not actually be responsible. So Velma goes to apologize to Daphne. And this time, they actually talk properly. Daphne explains that she's been searching for her biological parents. She feels abandoned. And when Velma's mom disappeared, she felt like Velma abandoned her too. So both of them thought the other walked away first. Velma takes some responsibility, and the two finally reach an understanding. Daphne admits that the kiss was real, but it was also scary. And for now, they decide it's better to just be friends again. Meanwhile, Norville forgets he had a therapy session at the jail with a group of inmates, which somehow leads to a full-on riot. So yeah, cardigans work, guys. But you also need to have a good memory of your appointments, I guess. As Norville watches the prison fall apart from afar, a card for Crystal Cove Insane Asylum falls out of his dad's cardigan pocket. When he asks him about it, his dad starts acting very suspicious. So now we have a new lead apart from the mysterious involvement of Fred's house. Moving on, 2 weeks have gone by since the last murder. And just when things start to feel a little normal again, boom, another girl. Lola is found dead in the exact same way. Which means the serial killer is still out there. Which also means Fred could not have been the killer, because he's been sitting in jail this whole time. So it's about time they let him go. In the city hall, the police and the mayor gather the people to share some progress on the case. They reveal they've been able to understand a pattern in the murders.
Each of the victims is hot.
Oh, I wonder how long it took them to figure that out. So instead of, I don't know, increasing security or doing actual police work, and Velma, who just earlier argued that men should not be ranking women like this, somehow ends up being the one to do it. Irony at its best. Well, maybe not at its best. I'm not going to pretend that this show is any better than it was just because reading it is easier than watching it. Anyway, as soon as word gets out, every hot girl in school starts campaigning to be on the list. Velma struggles to figure out how to even make it. So she goes to the one person who's built his entire personality around judging girls based on their looks. Fred. He happily makes the list for her, of course. But Velma, trying to balance things out, gives him a copy of the feminine mystique to maybe expand his thinking a little bit. Surprisingly, he reads the whole book, and his entire perception on beauty standards starts to change. Velma turns in her list, thinking she's done her job, but the mayor switches things up again. Instead of now protecting the girls, he tells Velma that perhaps he should teach the girls how to not be hot just like her. Okay? Rude. Which means, according to him, the problem isn't the killer, it's the girls. For sure, I thought we already kinda did this patriarchy joke earlier in the episode, but why not? Let's just kick the dead horse. Strange enough, Velma agrees to do this. I mean, how can she say no to an opportunity like this? In her head, she's basically saving these girls from the male gaze. So now, Velma is running classes at her house, trying to help these girls de-hotify themselves. Basically just turns into them dressing like Velma. Girls stick to it for about a day, and then quickly go back to being themselves. One of them, Olive, calls Velma out for her hypocrisy. She tells her that not everybody wants to hide who they are just to feel safe, and that Velma's idea of how girls should act is just as limiting. And she's completely right. Good job, Olive. This makes Velma think about her choices and how she's been judging everybody based on how she prefers to live. Meanwhile, Daphne is off doing her own investigation. someone throws a strange rock, a geode, through her window. Instead of being concerned, she immediately treats it like a clue, perhaps from her birth parents who secretly want to meet her. She teams up with Norville to investigate, and they trace the geode back to the Crystal Cove mines. Daphne starts feeling like she's been there before, like some kind of memory from when she was a baby, making her believe that she's close to finding her real parents. Norville, on the other hand, is just trying to survive this situation, while also taking notes on Daphne's personality so he can maybe copy it and make Velma like him. Oh, God. They head toward the abandoned mines, but Norville starts getting nervous. He points out that this could easily be a trap set by the killer. Daphne, however, admits that she actually enjoys the danger. At this moment, Norville realizes he can never be like her, nor can he pretend to be somebody else just to get Velma. So he gives up on the idea, and the two leave the mines for now. Meanwhile, back with Velma, she realizes that just like how Daphne and the other girls want to embrace being hot, she prefers embracing who she is, her intelligence, her personality, and her wittiness, and neither is better than the other. The next day, she shows up to school dressed more confidently, trying to support everybody being themselves. But before she can even do anything, Sophie suddenly goes into labor, and everything around them turns to chaos. The sheriff blocks the road, people start crowding around like it's some kind of live show, and Velma has to figure out how to clear the way for an ambulance. She asks the hot girls to distract everybody with their charm and hot moves, which they refuse. So Velma tries to do it herself, which doesn't work because she neither has charm or the moves. But the girls remind her that it's all about confidence and owning yourself up. So she needs to embrace who she is, and that's what Velma does. She starts beating people up to make way. Classic. The girls step in as well, distract the crowd, and Velma manages to clear the way for the ambulance. And Fred, who's watching Velma do all of this from afar and has now unlocked his inner beauty era, sees all this and suddenly starts finding Velma attractive. The next thing we know, he shows up at her house with flowers and talks about how the book changed him. Velma admits she used to find him attractive too, but she also prefers inner beauty. And Fred, well, let's just say he needs to work on his personality a lot. Meanwhile, in a small side moment, Norville ends up having a random spark with Gigi, one of Daphne's friends and part of the hot girls, which I think might actually go somewhere later in the series. Oh, and Sophie has a baby girl, Amanda. So after all the recent developments, Velma's hallucinations get worse than ever. She tries hard to find Norville, but the guy's nowhere to be found. At the same time, the city finally decides to take action by setting a city-wide curfew. This also means the school's marching band Sleepover gets canceled.
Yes!
And technically, this was Velma's chance to talk to Norville about her hallucinations. She decides to host the sleepover at her house, and her dad and Sophie won't return home until the next day. Fred, on the other hand, is on a mission to do anything to make Velma like him, and I mean anything. He tells Velma he will accompany her on her investigation since Norville is busy with his new girlfriend Gigi. Yeah, that escalated faster than I thought. Fred also tells Velma that he dug into his father's old documents to find something related to Velma's mom. Surprisingly, he actually finds something useful. He tells Velma that his house used to belong to someone called Dr. Edna Perdue.
Dr. Edna Perdue was a female neurologist.
You don't need to say female, Velma. You can just say neurologist.
Yeah, the feminine mystique really did something to him. Meanwhile, Daphne visits the mines again, and this time she goes alone. Out of nowhere, somebody pulls her deeper into the cave. Before she can even react, she's surrounded by two people in full costumes who claim to be her real parents. They refuse to show their faces, saying they can't trust her yet, which is ironic given that they want her to believe that they're her parents. Then they drop a whole new story on her that apparently her adoptive mom stole her from them. And if she wants evidence, she should look into something called the Crystal Mines Gang. So she starts digging into it, finds out that the gang was made up of mine workers who stayed behind after the mine shut down. They survived by committing robberies for years until they were eventually caught. During that time, there was a baby with them who might have been Daphne. Jinkies. Meanwhile, Velma is still focused on her investigation. After finding out about Dr. Perdue, she looks deeper into her and discovers that she was a neurologist who died in the Crystal Cove Insane Asylum after conducting some very questionable experiments. Velma tries to get Norville to help her look into this because if she hallucinates, only he can help her snap out of it. And well, Daphne can too, but Velma's feelings for her would get in the way of the mission. So yeah, we need Norville. But now that he's with Gigi, things have changed. Gigi makes it very clear that Norville needs to spend less time with Velma and start standing up for himself. So once again, Velma's on her own. Well, not completely if you count Fred in, who's trying his absolute best to help her. The two head to the Historical Society to check out Dr. Perdue's journals. When they get there, the journals are gone. The lady who works there, Evelyn, tells them that the last person who took them was Dia Dinkley. At this point, the pressure hits again, and Velma has another hallucination. Fred tries to help, but he's more interested in why men get paid more than women, so the investigation is aborted. Velma comes to a conclusion. She needs Norville, which brings us back to the sleepover. Velma hosts it at her house, hoping she can finally talk to Norville and get his help again. But of course, Gigi shows up because apparently she joined the marching band that same day. She challenges Velma to a flute-off. If Gigi wins, she stays. If Velma wins, Norville has to help her. And what follows is painful to say the least. Both of them play terribly, completely off-key, but somehow Gigi wins. Velma tries to convince her anyway, but Gigi calls her out. She tells Velma that she has no idea what Norville is going through. Velma pretends like she's aware of what's going on with him, just to get information out of Gigi. What she learns is huge. Dr. Edna Perdue is actually Norville's grandmother. The mystery keeps getting mysterious. Meanwhile, the marching band kids are absolutely destroying Velma's house, so they'll sneak out to get food from Spooners. On the way back, Velma realizes that Norville has always been there for her. She's not exactly returned that energy. So when the police block their way because of the curfew, Velma decides to distract them so the others can get away. She ends up getting arrested, lands in jail with Norville's parents, who are dressed up in weird, freaky costumes and got arrested for violating the curfew as well. How convenient for Velma. Now that Velma knows about Dr. Perdue's relation to Mrs. Rogers, who's also the school principal, by the way, she uses that to her advantage and pushes her to tell her everything. When Velma finally gets back home, she expects complete chaos. But surprisingly, everything is clean. Because Norville made sure the band kids cleaned everything before leaving. He still cares. Meanwhile, Daphne confronts her moms about her adoption story. It's very clear that they're lying. So since Velma has been too busy to help her, Daphne decides to investigate on her own. She heads into the sewers to look deeper into the mines. By the end of the episode, those same masked people reveal themselves as Carol, Daphne's real mother, and Darren, her father. Wait, are the same guy from jail? What a small world. At least one mystery of the show has been solved. As the name suggests, this episode is all about fathers and mothers, because everyone has some kind of family drama going on. Daphne's moms have clearly been hiding the truth about her adoption. Fred's dad is trying way too hard to turn him into a mini version of himself. Norville's parents are keeping secrets about his grandmother, and Velma's dad, well, he literally took a paternity leave to go hiking with his new family. Something he never did when Velma was born. So, great parenting all around. Velma is late to meet Norville's mom, aka Principal Rogers, who is finally supposed to tell her more about Dr. Perdue. On her way, she runs into Fred, who offers to give her a ride to school, which is actually nice until his dad shuts that down, calling him a fool for believing in inner beauty.
Well, at least my relationship with my father isn't that bad.
Just the three of us.
Velma makes it to Principal Rogers on time and is joined by Norville to help if she hallucinates. Principal Rogers tells her that back in the 1970s, Dr. Perdue had figured out how to keep a human brain alive outside of the body. Of course, the government saw that and thought, yes, this is exactly what we need. An army general called Harry Meeting came in with a plan to hypnotize meddling kids who were protesting against the war and swap their brains with a soldiers, and he called this whole project Scooby.
Scooby? And wait, what did Scooby do?
Scooby-Doo? Get it? It's comedy. Edna slowly started to lose her mind while working on this project, which, by the way, ended up as a complete tragic failure. So she hid her secret lab in the basement of what is now Fred's house, along with her journals so no one could copy her work, and then locked herself away in the insane asylum. Velma connects the dots. The victims all had their brains removed. Dr. Edna's research was focused on removing and preserving brains. Her mom was the last person to check out those research papers, and she also went to Fred's house the night she disappeared. Could this mean? No. We don't really know anything for sure at this point, but as Principal Rogers is about to tell her how Velma's mom could be connected to all of this, Velma starts hallucinating. And this time, even Norville's jokes couldn't help her, so she lands in the ER. Every time Principal Rogers tries to say something about Dia, Velma's brain just blocks it out completely. So now, the one thing she needs the most is the one thing that she can't access. Norville tries to help her figure this out. That is when they realize that her hallucinations did not just start randomly. They started the same day her dad told her to stop looking for her mom, and that she had just left them. So basically, her hallucinations are caused by her daddy issues. Now it starts to make sense. Velma's mind is trying to protect her, but in the worst way possible. Because as long as her dad does not believe her, she can't face the truth either. So Velma finally confronts him. She tells him straight up that she needs him to believe her that her mom did not just leave. She was actually kidnapped. For once, he agrees to talk about it and promises to support her through all of this. However, the place they choose to talk is not so father-daughter friendly. But come on, who are we to judge, right? Anyway, they do some talking, and her dad convinces her to spend a fun day with him, because he regrets that he's been so busy. Hoping this could help her hallucinations go away, Velma agrees. So the two spend the day together, and it's actually going pretty well, until she finds out that her dad has been taking work calls. All this father-daughter fun time has been a cover-up so Sophie couldn't find out he's working on his paternity leave. So, not cool. After this brutal revelation, Velma gives up and goes back to Principal Rogers. She asks her to tell her what she needs to hear, and she tells herself her dad means nothing to her. Velma finally learns that her mom had become deeply interested in Dr. Perdue's research journals, which they got to know about the secret lab hidden beneath Fred's house. So Velma makes a mental note to go check the lab next. Meanwhile, Daphne's been sneaking out to the mines to meet with her birth parents, who, let's be honest, do not seem very trustworthy. And this time, they finally reveal their actual plan. They're getting ready to leave town with all the crystals they've stolen, and they want Daphne to come with. Not because they suddenly care, but because they need her as a hostage in case the police show up. I knew there was something fishy. Poor Daph. Not exactly the heartfelt reunion that she was hoping for. But before things can go any further, her adoptive mom show up and arrest the entire gang. Turns out they've been tracking them this whole time to make sure Daphne was safe. The truth is, her birth parents didn't lose her. They left Daphne. They chose their stolen goods over their own child. Her moms explained that they found her alone and decided to take her in. They never told her the truth because they did not want her to feel unwanted. In this chaos, Daphne's birth mom, Carol, escapes. Velma reaches Fred's house and makes her way down to the basement to the secret lab. Fred joins her too, and they both find the entrance, but it's blocked. Before they can do anything, the wall collapses and knocks them out. When Velma wakes up, her dad is there. He apologizes to her, and all three of them enter the lab together. As expected, Velma's hallucinations are back again, but this time her dad tells her he really believes her, and they stop. I mean, that's all she needed all this time. Velma finds a note that says Jinkies written in her mom's handwriting, which basically confirms that Dia was in fact here, and she is connected to the murders. At the end, we see Carol, who previously escaped the police, making her way out of the mines when she's attacked by a masked man or woman. Can't really tell with this show, but things are about to get more fun around here. So, with the recent developments in the mystery, Velma's stuck on one thing. Why did her mom write the word Jinkies? While she's busy trying to decode that, Daphne's trying to talk to her about everything that just happened with her parents. But Velma's completely distracted and keeps shutting her out. Honestly, I would never want to be friends with her. To add more to the chaos, Principal Rogers goes to the press and tells them about Dr. Perdue and her secret Lil projects. Makes everybody believe that the serial killer is none other than Dr. Perdue's ghost who came back to finish her project. Since curfews don't work for ghosts, it's lifted as the city prepares to celebrate their annual Fog Fest. Okay, that was dumb. There is one safety rule. Girls must attend with a date for protection. Wow, how smart and not at all outdated. Fred wants to ask Velma out for Fog Fest, but his parents are still very against it. They want him to prove himself worthy of taking over the family business by winning the title of Fog King. Can't really win if he's with Velma. On the other hand, Norville asks Gigi to go to Fog Fest with him and she says yes, but that pisses Velma off. She tries to convince Norville to boycott the fest, but somehow he convinces her that maybe a fun night is what she needs right now too. The problem is she has no date. Norville was her only chance. But now that he's taken by Gigi, wait a minute, Daphne, she decides she might as well ask Daphne. And maybe fix things between them. But before she can, Fred beats her to it and asks Daphne first, and she says yes. So now Velma's left alone. Karma is really a With nothing else to do, she starts going through her mom's research again, and finally, she finds something. A phone number written in invisible ink on the Jinkies note. Now that's what you call a clue. She calls the number, somebody picks up, they just breathe heavily. Judging by the background noise, Velma concludes it is the killer. He's at the Fog Fest. She disguises herself as a man named Manny and heads to the festival, because men don't need a date to enter. At the festival, Fred and Norville are both competing to become Fog King. Fred wants to prove himself to his parents, and Norville, well, he says it's for Gigi. But really, he just wants to feel like he's worth something. In the process, he completely ignores Gigi the whole night. Meanwhile, Velma, as Manny, moves around the festival trying to find the killer. Strange enough, girls are throwing themselves at him. Her. They laugh at her jokes. They cheer for her. All because they think that she's a guy. I'm sensing kind of a pick-me vibe here. Velma takes this opportunity to hop on the stage and announces that there's no such thing as a ghost. The serial killer is still out there, and they need to put the curfew back on.
That's what my daughter's been saying, but for some reason I believe it more from you.
We all do!
It would have taken her centuries to convince everybody it's Velma, and for some reason they even start cheering for Manny to be Fog King. Daphne opens up to Manny about everything she's been going through. Her birth parents, the lies, everything. She says she tried to talk to Velma, but Velma was just not there. Then it hits Velma just how selfish she's been. For a moment, it feels like they're finally reconnecting. They lean in, but just before the kiss, Fred shows up and rips off Velma's disguise. Daphne feels betrayed, walks away. Fred ruins the entire moment. Now everybody knows Manny's Velma. In all the chaos, Norville ends up becoming Fog King and makes a whole speech about how this will restore Gigi's self-worth. Come on. But Gigi had already left the Fog Fest. It was all for nothing. Velma then finds Daphne at the docks, finally apologizes for not being there for her. It looks like Daphne is about to forgive her when a masked killer shows up with a knife and attacks them. Daphne kicks him and they both run for their lives. Then begins the run and chase in classic Scooby-Doo style. He'll run into Fred and Norville, but in the fog, the killer disappears again. He leaves behind something really important. His phone, which means new lead. Norville goes to find Gigi, who's understandably upset, but they make up shortly after. She throws the crown away, and the two leave together. By the end of the episode, Fred is walking alone through a funhouse of mirrors, and suddenly, the killer appears behind him. Episode 8 starts with Fred's mom asking Velma to help her find Fred, who's been missing. But Velma doesn't pay attention to her and leaves with Daphne. The next thing we know, both Daphne and Velma are stuck in a ravine. What? Okay, I guess let's rewind 2 days back. Velma and Daphne are on their way back home after the Fog Fest, and Velma's trying to unlock the serial killer's phone. Linda and Donna tell her that Daphne can help hack it since she's experienced after the incident, and the second that gets brought up, Daphne changes the subject. Clearly, there is something there. Meanwhile, Fred wakes up after being attacked and finds himself trapped in a weird underground room. He's not alone. The brains of the murdered girls, Brenda, Lola, Krista, are there as well, talking to him. Okay, I take back what I said about ghosts. I think it is Dr. Perdue's come back to finish what she started. Back at Daphne's house, she helps Velma hack into the killer's phone. She also admits that the incident happened because she lost her mind over someone she liked, ended up hacking their phone. She gets into the killer's phone and finds just one clue. a picture from Mount Crystal. So obviously that is where they need to go next. Meanwhile, Fred is having a chit-chat with the brains, or more accurately, flirting with Brenda. I think old Fred might be back.
Because I just learned the hottest part of a woman is her brain.
Oh, did you?
Yes, Brenda. Or should I call you Brainda?
Jeez. Anyway, when Velma goes to get Daphne the next morning, Daphne has already made plans with Olive. Velma gets extremely jealous, and instead of handling it normally, she fakes a hallucination to get Daphne to ditch her plans. Meanwhile, Norville and Gigi head up to Gigi's family cabin in Mount Crystal. Gigi thinks it's a cute romantic trip, but Norville secretly invited Velma and Daphne there too so they can investigate the killer. When everybody finally ends up at the cabin, things go south pretty quickly. Daphne finds out Velma faked the hallucination. She's not happy. Wouldn't be either if my best friend kept disappointing me like this. She storms out, and Gigi follows her. This is when Norville drops the bomb that Gigi is the person Daphne was obsessed with and hacked her phone. Velma immediately panics, runs after them, thinking that she'd just push them back together. She and Norville catch up to them near a cliff, and then the ground literally breaks apart and all four of them fall straight down into a ravine. Perfect. Now they're stuck. And with nowhere to go, they finally start talking, or blaming each other. Daphne admits that maybe this whole situation is partly her fault. She says she actually liked it when Velma got jealous, but she did not expect her to lie like that. However, in an attempt to free themselves from the huge rock over them, all four of them fall deeper into the ravine and end up inside an extension of the crystal mines. Norville and Gigi finally climb out, but Velma and Daphne stay behind, partly because they need to talk, but mainly because Velma needs to look for her mom. They start questioning whether they're even good for each other as friends, or maybe they should just try being girlfriends. And just at that moment, is about to go somewhere, they hear Fred, explaining to the brains how he ended up hooking up with all three of them. Velma and Daphne reach Fred, and thanks to him screaming like a maniac, the mines start to collapse. Velma grabs the jars with the brains, trying to save the evidence, but in saving them, she slips and falls deeper into the ravine. Just when it looks like she's done for good, her mom appears and pulls her up. Finally. Dia Dinkley is alive. She helps Velma up, gets everybody out of the collapsing mines, and somehow manages to drive them out of there in a van, like it's just another Tuesday for her. As the paramedics take Dia to the hospital, Velma asks her where she was all this time, and who took her. Dia hesitates to reply, and she says that she forgot. No, Dia, we're not buying that. Where have you been? So after finally getting her mom back, Velma thinks that things might finally start to get better. But at the hospital, Dia's diagnosed with amnesia. She's completely blocked out the last 2 years of her life, which means she does not remember going missing. She does not remember the investigation. Most importantly, she does not remember who took her. The doctors say her memory might come back, but only if she stays happy. They have about 72 hours. So Velma has a new mission now. She brings her mom home, basically starts changing everything back to how it used to be. I mean, literally. She removes every trace of Sophie from the house, pretends everything's normal, starts lying about anything that could upset Dia, includes the biggest lie of all, the baby. Velma tells her mom that Amanda's actually her baby and Norville's the father, which knocks her mom out for a few minutes. But hey, better than finding out your husband slept with a waitress the second you went missing and had a baby. Norville is out here doing everything to help Velma keep this lie going. On the other side, Daphne's trying to fix things between her and Velma. Now that they're kind of together, she wants them to go to this big homecoming party hosted by the Brains since they're back now. These girls might just be brains in jars, but they won't stop them from throwing the rager of the season. There's a problem. Both her and Fred have lost popularity after everything had happened in the mines, so no invite. But then she gets an idea. Since people loved her and Fred together, why not fake date again? And the plan gets them right back in business, baby. With hashtag Frafney trending on social media. They get back in the limelight and secure their invite to the party. Meanwhile, back at the Dinkley house, Norville's still doing everything for Velma. From changing Amanda's diapers to singing her to sleep, even his dad Lamont is more involved than Velma because all she cares about right now is keeping her mother happy. Back at school, Velma's getting desperate. She needs something big, something impressive to make her mom happy enough to trigger her memory. So she asks Norville to publish a fake news story about her. Something any South Asian parent would proudly frame on the wall. Norville is not on board at first, but eventually he agrees. On one condition. Velma has to help out and change Amanda's diaper. It's a fair trade, honestly. So Velma heads toward the bathroom, but on the way, she passes by Lamont's office and spots a welding mask. Instead of, asking a single question, she immediately jumps to conclusions. She calls the police on his dad. Turns out his dad was just making Norville a birthday gift, which Velma completely forgot about, and that's it. This is the breaking point. Norville finally realizes he's been putting Velma first this entire time, while she does not even consider him at all. So he tells her straight up, he's done. They're not friends anymore. You can't even blame him. Back at the Brains' homecoming party, Fred and Daphne are fully committed to their fake-ass relationship, putting on a whole performance to convince everybody. But the Brains are not buying it. They want proof. So they tell them to kiss. And just as they lean in and actually do it, Velma walks in. Oh boy, it's not going to end well. She hands Amanda to Sophie, telling her to take her baby. Right behind her, Aman and Dia walk in. Dia sees everything and finds out the truth about Aman cheating on her with Sophie and Amanda being their daughter. Velma tries to explain that she lied about everything because she wanted her memories to come back. But in that moment, Dia remembers everything.
And just say who the serial killer is.
Of course. It's me.
Okay, so after that insane revelation where Dia straight up confessed that she's the killer, things take a nasty turn. The police immediately arrest her, and the whole town just accepts it. Everybody except for Velma. Down at the police station, Dia confesses that she wanted to take the brain of a popular girl and put it into Velma's head. Ouch. Velma is also not buying that. She needs her friends to help her find the actual killer, but she's still pissed at Daphne for kissing Fred, and Norville's pissed at Velma for calling the police on his dad. Fred, on the other hand, is currently having a full-on identity crisis because his mom thinks that he's a failure. So she's pretty much on her own right now. Velma tries very hard to get a chance to talk to her mom, but the sheriff doesn't allow her. So Linda and Donna tell her the only way she can talk to her mom is if she commits a murder and ends up being arrested. Well, that's simple. Meanwhile, Fred's mom offers Daphne an internship at her company after seeing how smart she is, and in return she wants her to spend more time with Fred. See, she wants Fred to run the company one day. And, well, he could use some help. Velma, desperately searching for ways to get arrested, finally gets an idea. She asks Fred to report her. Because what could get you arrested faster than a privileged, rich, white man's complaint? And as expected, the sheriff has no choice but to arrest her. Velma ends up in a jail cell with Dia, tries to talk to her. But something's wrong. Dia keeps repeating the same confession, word for word like a robot. Every time Velma tries to get her to say something else, she just resets. This is when it clicks for her. Dia's been hypnotized. Back at school, Daphne finds something left behind by her birth mom, a note, and a pocket watch, which she found in the crystal mines. According to Carol, this watch is important enough that she almost died trying to get it. Daphne meets Velma at jail. When Velma sees the pocket watch, she notices the initials written on it, which reveals it was made by Jones Accessories. She also remembers that when her mom went missing, she saw someone in a welder's mask with the same watch hypnotizing her into believing that her mystery solving got her mom to go missing. Talking about the watch, remember who else was a pro at hypnosis? General Harry Meeting, the same army guy behind the Scooby project. There has to be a connection. The guy's long dead, but someone is still very much obsessed with him and his little operation. And between all of this, Velma also finds out that Norville is transferring schools. The reason for that is, well, it's Velma. His absence makes Velma realize how much she missed him. What a great friend he was. Probably the only friend she ever had. So she goes back and listens to all the voicemails he left her that she never listened to. While listening to the first one he sent her 2 years back, where he compliments her on her glasses and comforts her since her mom had just gone missing, Velma notices her glasses. They were also made by Fred's parent company, same as the pocket watch. With everything pointing towards Fred's family, Velma goes to his house and uses the secret entrance down to the lab. But before she goes in, she does one more thing. She leaves Norville a voicemail. She tells him that no matter what happens, he will always be her best friend, and accidentally says love you towards the end. Yeah, it took you long enough. As she enters the lab, she finds Fred and Daphne strapped to a stretcher and someone in a welded mask with a knife. After some kick-ass moves, she finally catches the killer, who is, drumroll please,
Killer is
Victoria Jones?
formerly known as Victoria Meeting, the daughter of General Harry Meeting.
Both Fred and Daphne have a lot of questions. So Velma explains that when everything pointed towards Jones' Gentleman's Accessories, she did some digging, found out that Fred's mom is the daughter of General Harry Meeting. Her motive was to replace Fred's brain with someone smarter and more capable to run the company one day. Victoria then fills in the rest of the story herself. She explains that Dr. Edna Purdue's experiments were never a failure, they actually worked. But when General Meeting tried to take all the credit, Edna shut everything down, hid her research. That's what got her locked away. Victoria grew up obsessed with finishing what her father started. She found out that Dia had been digging into those journals. She used her as the perfect tool. She hypnotized her, made her do all the dirty work while keeping her memory completely blocked. The murders, the missing brains, all of it was part of her plan to finally make the brain-swapping experiment work again. Originally, she wanted Daphne's brain, but now she decides Velma's brain is even better. Smart, capable, and exactly what she needs. Before Velma can even react, Victoria knocks her out and has both Fred and Velma tied up. As she gets ready to finish the procedure, but this time, things don't go exactly as planned. Fred, who's been underestimated and embarrassed this entire time, finally erupts like a volcano. He manages to break free and helps Velma and Daphne escape while distracting his mom. Velma and Daphne run, trying to find a way out, but Victoria catches up to them and pulls out a gun. And in that moment, when it feels like this is the end, Daphne finally says it. She tells Velma that she loves her, and Velma says it back too. Instead of saying, "Love you, Daphne," she calls her Norville, pulling a classic Ross and Rachel move. Right on cue, Norville shows up out of nowhere with a sword, blocks the bullet like a full-on hero. The shot ricochets, hitting a rock that comes crashing down right onto Victoria, crushing her to death. But who cares? The truth is finally out. Dia's free. By the end of it, things are still messy between all four of them, but they'll patch it up just like they always do in their own weird way. And then they'll meet a talking dog, I guess. Velma finally has her mom back, which is all she really wanted from the start. And we even get to see the very first version of the Mystery Machine. But just when it feels like everything is finally over, we see the sheriff putting Dia's case file away, given to him by Velma, when suddenly someone attacks him, and blood splatters across the window. So I guess one mystery is solved, but the story is just getting started, I guess. So after that insane finale, Season 2 picks up exactly 3 weeks later. Crystal Cove is recovering from the brain-swapping killer, and Velma's now more determined than ever to keep solving mysteries. Oh, and also she's one of the popular kids in school now, thanks to her incredible mystery-solving skills. Right now, she's on her way to attend her first Cool Kids party with Daphne out in the woods. Speaking of Daphne, things are still pretty awkward between them, and they're both trying to figure out what they are after everything that happened. You know, with Velma confessing her love for Norville. So, friends? Are they more than friends? Are they lovers? No one really knows. But before they can make it to the party, Daphne sees something in the bushes.
Look! It's Sheriff Cogburn!
And just like that, we're back in another mystery. As police gather and collect evidence about the sheriff's murder, Velma's convinced that Victoria Jones is alive and back for revenge. She tells Fred she needs to go check his mom's grave to make sure she's really dead, which is insane and insensitive. But Fred is pretty sure she was innocent and possessed by the ghost of Edna Perdue. While Velma's spiraling over having to solve another case, we're introduced to a new character, Amber, who just moved here with her mom Thorne, who kind of looks like she runs one of those future reading crystal ball type shops. Thorne is friends with Linda and Donna, and you know what they say about new people coming to town exactly at the time of a murder, right? Anyway, Velma goes to Norville for help, but seems like he's still pretty upset about her first confessing her love to him and then calling it an accident. Way to play with a man's heart, Velma. Outside his house, Velma meets their old biology teacher, Dr. S., who's back from his sabbatical. Let's just say she makes a fool out of herself trying to impress him so he could get her an internship at a criminology lab. Oh, and apart from Velma's joke of a confession, Norville's also struggling with something else. Feels guilty for killing Fred's mom, which he kinda did, but it was an accident. On the other side, Daphne goes to Fred, who's found at the church these days because of his new ghost hunting business. She asks him if he thinks Velma has feelings for Norville. Surprisingly, Fred gives a reasonable answer for once. He says Norville might be attractive, but if Velma says she does not like him, Daphne should trust her. Whoa, who is this man? What has he done with Fred? Later that night, Velma goes to the cemetery to dig up Victoria's grave. But before she can do anything, someone attacks her in the dark. She fights back and the attacker runs away, leaving behind a sneaker. Now, who could that be? Norville? Back home, Velma tries to examine the shoe, but her mom stops her. Thea is not happy that Velma's getting involved in another mystery since last time she almost got killed. The next day at Spooner's, Velma's quietly waiting for her mom to leave so she can examine the sneaker. Daphne offers to help by running tests through her mom's computer at home because they're both busy with Amber and her mom, planning their campaign party as they run for Sheriff Cogburn's position. But before they can leave, Fred's dogs end up destroying the sneaker. So thanks, Daph, but that won't be needed anymore. Velma asks Norville to help her follow Fred, and he agrees on one condition. She cannot talk about anything that's happened between them. But during their ride, he breaks the condition himself. Norville opens up about his hallucinations and how killing Fred's mom is messing up his brain. Velma tries to help by offering to make him laugh if that helps with the hallucinations, but Norville says stress eating works better for him. So she starts digging through his car looking for snacks, and that's when she finds the other sneaker. Oh boy. Norville explains that he did go to the cemetery last night, only to check if Victoria is alive. Then he saw somebody attacking Velma. He wanted to help her, but he couldn't because he started hallucinating. But after she was gone, he found the other shoe of the attacker and kept it as a clue. Yeah, I knew Norville could never. Phew. But now we have the other pair to run the tests on. Yay. Back at Daphne's, the strange new girl Amber has moved in with her mom until they can afford a place of their own. But in their conversation, she mentions that Daphne's moms have been planning their campaign party for weeks. Even though Cogburn's body was found yesterday, the numbers are not adding up. Velma and Norville go to the funeral home where Cogburn's funeral was supposed to be held. Fred is already there, hiding inside the casket, and tells them that Cogburn's body is missing. Before they can understand why, they hear footsteps approaching and everybody hides in the casket. A man named Merle, who says he's Cogburn's twin brother, shows up. Doesn't actually look anything like his twin because apparently they were only voice twins, which I guess just means they didn't want to find a new voice actor for the character. Gotta say, kinda funny joke. Daphne's moms show up as well. They don't let Merle take a look inside the casket and arrest him for intruding. Inside the casket, Norville and Velma realize that as much as they care about each other, they don't have romantic feelings. However, that does not explain why Velma's been doubting her feelings for Daphne. Right then, Daphne opens the casket and tells everyone that she thinks her moms might have killed Sheriff Cogburn to take his job. Fred is still persistent that the real killer is the ghost of Norville's grandmother. Just to make things worse, his dogs ruin the other pair of the attacker's sneakers too. Great, now we're back to square one again. Daphne and Velma decide to attend Linda and Donna's campaign party to gather more evidence. But the problem is the moms are already suspicious. They can tell something's off, so sneaking around is not exactly easy. Still, somehow, the two manage to slip away and head back to Daphne's house to look for anything that might connect them to the murder. They start going through Linda and Donna's things, hoping to find something solid, but before they can find something useful, Daphne's moms walk in and confront them. They tell the kids that they did in fact know something was wrong with Sheriff Cogburn because they had seen blood at the storage unit earlier, but they were not sure if he was actually dead at the time, which means they're not the killers. I believe it. We can't have the killer be parents 2 seasons in a row. That'd be lazy. In this show, what was I saying? Velma notices that doctor-produced research papers have been missing from her mom's case file, which means someone stole the papers. Amber tells everyone that she heard Dr. S talk about Dr. Edna Purdue earlier, and the guy's low-key obsessed with the mad neurologist. Wait a damn minute. If Dr. S is the killer, Velma just left her mom with him. She rushes back home. When she gets there, she finds Dia happily writing her book on the computer. Dia tells Velma that Dr. S inspired her to write again, and she also allows Velma to solve mysteries. At the end, Velma and Daphne try to express their feelings, but once again, doesn't go as expected. Because, well, this time, Velma doesn't believe in soulmates. In the post-credits scene, we see Dr. S who's chilling at his home when,
Hello?
So I guess he was not the killer. Now that Velma's popular, she's been loving the attention. People laugh at her nerdy jokes, they copy her dressing style, and she even gets to sit in the front row like the hot girls. That doesn't mean she does not occasionally get into trouble.
Velma, why did I just find a whole stack of Creaky Friday flyers you were supposed to hand out in the trash?
Velma tries to convince everyone that celebrating Creaky Friday, which is basically a day where teens oil the squeaky doors of the town, is a terrible idea. And there's literally a killer on the loose. But the majority wins, and Velma ends up handing out flyers anyway. She tells Daphne she's meeting Mr. S after class to finally learn more about Dr. Purdue's missing journals. But when the class starts, Mr. S never shows up, because dead people usually don't. Principal Rogers and the police inform students that their biology teacher is missing. Velma and Fred immediately start thinking how this could be connected to Sheriff Cogburn's murder, but they receive a harsh warning to stay away from the case. Meanwhile, Dia is trying to reach Mr. S after the sudden creative boost he gave her last night, but she doesn't hear back from him and assume that he's ghosting her, because that's what men usually do. But the poor guy is actually a literal ghost now. He's dead. Back at school, Velma is still convinced that Victoria is alive. She keeps tormenting Fred about it. Fred says he has a picture that proves his mom is dead, but he won't show it to her. Since Velma has no understanding of consent or privacy, she decides to break into Fred's locker. But how? That's when she gets another evil idea. She turns to her new popular friends who are all busy prepping for Creaky Friday. Velma asks them to pair her with Fred for the event. The girls refuse because the pairing has to be done anonymously. However, Velma does not take no for an answer. She breaks into the school later at night with Daphne to put metal shavings in Fred's and her ping pong balls to make sure their names get picked together. Daphne doesn't appreciate the idea because she wanted to be paired with Velma, but given that Velma has great manipulation skills, she convinces her. Next day, as she planned, Velma and Fred's name come together, and Fred is not happy about it.
Oh, come on. I'm not ready to be bossed around by another short-haired angry woman. Mother just died.
On the other hand, Daphne gets paired with Amber, and Velma has to pretend she's okay with it. As Velma and Fred go around oiling creaky doors, Fred tells her he knows Velma rigged this. Velma doesn't even deny it, and admits that the only reason she did it was that she can go and check out Dr. S's residence. But when they get there, the place is full of police and paramedics, which pretty much confirms that their hot biology teacher is definitely dead. Fred hides to avoid getting caught investigating, and Velma takes this opportunity to pressure him to showing her the picture he's been hiding. At this point, I feel the series should be named Manipulation Tactics 101 with Velma Dinkley. Anyway, Fred takes her home and gives her the case file he's been working on. Inside, she finds a picture of a ghost. Fred explains to her that an anonymous person hired him to work on Cogburn's case. They also sent him this photo. Velma recognizes the costume immediately and says she has seen it before. Meanwhile, Norville is working with the brains to help them build a transport system, which in hindsight is his way to understand what part of the brain is actually responsible for causing hallucinations. Velma and Fred visit the costume store and find the exact ghost costume in the photo. Velma checks the record. The last person to rent it was Norville. That's where Velma remembers it from. Again, without putting much thought into it, she storms in on Norville and accuses him of killing Cogburn. Seeing Fred there, Norville starts hallucinating. Velma gives him a snack to stop his hallucinations, and once he's all calmed down, he tells everyone that he did indeed go to the police station the night Cogburn was murdered, but only to steal his grandmother's research journal. He thought it could help him ease his anxiety. That's why he needed the brains to test his theories. The brains take offense to being used by him and leave. Fred tells Velma to not buy the story and call the cops, but Velma trusts Norville. On the other side, Daphne and Amber determine to win Creaky Friday by oiling as many doors as possible, land in the morgue. When they find the dead bodies of both Cogburn and Dr. S, then the first thing they do is call Velma.
And they're not only dead, their dongs were removed. This is almost as bad as girls having their brains removed.
That was so unnecessary, but okay, fair point, I guess. Anyway, Daphne recognizes the ghost photo of Norville is from a police station surveillance camera, which means someone from the police department must have sent it. Velma goes to Linda and Donna, who previously told the kids to stay away from investigating. Turns out, it was Linda who sent the picture to Fred to help them since they had no leads on the case, and she feared it would result in the public losing trust in them. Donna tells Velma to keep this outsourcing a secret or they might lose the elections. However, there's someone who's been listening to their conversation. As Velma and Fred try to understand the link between the murders, Daphne and Amber are announced as the winners of Creaky Friday. However, the next news is not very celebration-worthy. Merle Cogburn is having a press conference where he reveals that the two people responsible for finding his brother's murderer and who are also running for his seat have outsourced the investigation to some teenage kids, which is why he will now be running for sheriff as well. Oh boy. After a busy day with some good progress in the case, Velma goes to Daphne and says that if believing in soulmates makes her happy, then they can be soulmates. After sharing a moment, Velma heads home. And ooh, her mom's in bed with Fred's dad. It just could not get weirder than this. The post-credit scene shows 2 more murders taking place. This time, it's the coroners from the morgue. Okay, so the case is nowhere close to being solved. But I'm sure it can wait, because the possibility of William Jones dating Velma's mom is a much bigger problem to deal with right now. And while both of them try their hardest to convince their kids to be okay with this, both Velma and Fred are equally grossed out, as are we. Dia shares how she met William during the interview for a memoir. Next thing she knew, he was in her bed. They were in love. Velma gives Dia every reason not to date William, starting with how his wife literally kidnapped and tormented Dia for 2 freaking years. And also because Velma hates rich people. Dia says she'll stop seeing William if Velma wins the science fair, which makes no sense at all. But she agrees nonetheless. It's funny how the tables have turned. First, William was begging Fred not to date Velma, and now it is Velma begging her mom not to date William. Anyway, Lola is now helping Norville to stop his hallucinations, and it's kind of working. Velma gets Norville to team up with her for the science fair. Since the biology teacher was brutally murdered, Norville's dad will be judging the science fair, who, by the way, is smoking a lot of grass these days. But this gives Norville an unfair advantage and a high chance of winning. He agrees to help on one condition. Velma needs to get him a urine sample from a druggie. Norville's been telling his dad he's using the weed he gave him to help with his hallucinations, but in reality he's not been using the drugs, so if his father needs to run a test, he needs to be prepared. This may be the first time a teenager has needed to prove to their parent that they are on drugs. I think the theme of this entire TV show is funny ideas, deeply unfunny execution. Meanwhile, William invites both Velma and Dia to his place so he can win Velma over, and the guy's leaving no stone unturned. He's prepared Pink Lemonade, a musical number.
What?
You are poor, so you will like this. Some joy in your grubby little life, miss.
66 different kinds of desserts, a literal gold coin bath, and an unreasonable amount of money. But I think Velma was sold at the lemonade. However, Fred is not happy about any of this, so Dia decides to go talk to him. Fred tells Dia that he's only mad because his father doesn't believe him when he says his mother was innocent, which, hate to break it to you, Fred, none of us believe. Anyway, the real reason Fred's so emo is because every year his mom used to help him with the science project, which really means that she hired scientists to make sure he won. Now he doesn't have anybody. Dia offers to help him with that, and the two pair up to work on Fred's idea for the project that is completely toast. Yeah, that's what he wants to work on. Velma, on the other hand, is finally settling into her new rich life and finally comes to terms with the fact that she only hated rich people because she was poor. Meanwhile, Daphne, who's partnered up with Amber for the science fair, is working on manifestation as their project. It's finally science fair day, and Norville is waiting for Velma to show up with a very important urine sample so he can make his dad believe his lie. But Velma didn't inform him about the change of plans. She no longer wants to stop her mom from dating William, so she's also not desperate for Norville to win anymore. So there's no sample. And Norville is losing his mind. While the students present their projects, William casually does what rich people do best. He just buys the best project at the fair and hands it to Velma, making her win the science fair. But it doesn't make her feel good at all. Velma gets on stage and announces that it's Norville who should have won since he had the best project. Norville refuses to take the prize, saying he just copied his grandmother's work from the 70s, and instead it's Fred who should have won since his toast idea was original. Amid all the chaos, William realizes he's been a terrible father, and that he should have helped Fred with his project when he asked. He apologizes to Fred. The two share a surprisingly wholesome hug, all thanks to Dia for softening them up. As the science fair comes to an end, Amber convinces Daphne to learn some witchcraft with her. See? I knew this girl was into that stuff. Norville, on the other hand, tries testing his project on himself and tries to burn up the part of his brain causing the hallucinations. In doing so, he ends up burning the part that's responsible for empathy, so he's left with no compassion and is saying everything that comes to his mind. Side note, do not try this at home, or at the science fair, for that matter. He even tells his dad that he's been buying pee samples to make him believe he was getting high and that he thinks smoking makes his father look like a loser. As a result, the whole gang ends up getting detention. Great. The next morning, everyone gets dropped off at school for detention. Daphne, who's taking way too much interest in whatever Amber and her mom are cooking, has changed everything about herself. Top of that, everyone's mad at her for being so close with Amber, saying they can't include a witch in their friend group. Norville feels responsible for getting everybody into this mess. Tries to apologize to his dad so everybody can go home, but his dad refuses to accept any apology. He says they will not just be doing detention, they're doing it properly, Breakfast Club style, because Gen X is still not over the 80s pop culture. Anyway, the only mission Velma has right now is to show Daphne that this is not who she is, and to stop believing in everything Amber's feeding her. Back in the library, Norville experiences another hallucination. Amber claims that she saw a dark energy around him, suggesting Norville's haunted by Victoria's ghost. Velma calls that complete nonsense. Still, Amber says she can prove it by summoning Victoria through a seance. On the other hand, Lamont is watching the kids through CCTV, wants them to do something crazy. Daphne suggests they shouldn't give him what he wants, but Norville, desperate for answers, thinks they can pull it off without getting caught. Velma sees this opportunity as a chance to expose Amber and make Daphne believe she's a fraud, so she distracts Lamont by telling him she's trapped in the bathroom, buying the others enough time to set things up. Amber splits the group, setting each of them to get one item for the seance. Meanwhile, Aman, who came to drop Velma off at school, is seen wandering through the school, reliving his own high school days in his head. But before the ritual can begin, Principal Rogers catches Lamont roaming in the hallways looking for Velma, calls him out for turning detention into his personal entertainment. As punishment, he's put into detention as well. Kinda instant karma. The kids fill him in on the seance they're doing to help Norville and ask him to distract Bly so they can go ahead with it. And he actually helps. Everyone gathers for the ritual. Olive, Gigi, and Velma are all secretly hoping this completely flops, so Daphne snaps back to normal. Just as Amber's about to begin, she pauses, claiming she senses bad energy coming from Velma. Daphne asks Olive and Gigi what Velma's up to, and since there's no force stronger than girl code, they tell her about Velma planning to expose Amber. Velma tries to cover up by saying she's just looking out for her best friend. Daphne isn't moved by this. Instead, she reminds Velma that if she doesn't believe in magic or anything beyond logic, how does she explain what she felt at her first Beyoncé concert? Checkmate. Then, in a genius move, Daphne rebrands the seance into Seance to honor Velma's love for Beyoncé. And just like that, Velma's back in. So they began the seance by chanting the lyrics of Haunted to summon the ghost of Victoria Jones. First, nothing happens, but then strong winds erupt from everywhere, proving the presence of a supernatural entity. But before the ghost can talk to them, Velma accuses Amber for staging the whole thing by messing with the air conditioning to make the room colder, and electric wires to make the lights flicker. Amber denies doing anything like this, and Daphne supports her. Velma and Daphne get into yet another fight, and Velma says some very harsh things to her, like that she finds her dumb and stupid. Blythe crashes the party and asks everyone to leave. Norville goes to the science lab to put the burners back in their place and finds a report from the insane asylum that belongs to Mr. S.
Dr. Dane Dupree?
Holy crap. Daphne is upset. Like, very upset. So naturally, Velma tries to win her back in the most Velma way possible, by doing everything except apologizing. She posts heavily edited pictures of herself online, but it doesn't work. So for her final blow, she thinks if Daphne sees her reading a book on how to find a better girlfriend, she'd definitely want to forgive her. Who is giving her all this relationship advice? It's very bad. Anyway, she heads to the library, walks straight into another crime scene. The morgue victims are there, laid out on the same seance symbol Amber drew earlier. Linda and Donna step in to investigate and strictly tell Velma not to say a word about the victims missing their genitals. But in Velma's mind, Amber is the real culprit. The detectives hold a press conference outside the school, but the word gets out. The killer's targeting middle-aged men. The town once again spirals into chaos. But I'm more intrigued to see what genius plan the mayor comes up with this time now that men are being murdered. Perhaps the men should start dressing as women to be safe. After the press conference, Velma tries to talk to Daphne, but Daphne totally avoids her, and in doing so, she runs into Norville, who's acting stranger than usual. But as Daphne starts asking him about what he's up to, an Uber pulls up to take him to the Crystal Cove Insane Asylum. Right then, Velma spots Daphne. To dodge her again, she gets in the car with Norville and gets away. Phew. On their way, Norville tells her that he suspects his grandmother is alive. Daphne has to tag along, which she is pretty late to ask since they're already halfway there. She tells Norville she's not ready to face Velma after everything she said about witchcraft being BS. Velma catches up to them, but before she can make them stop, Sophie gets in her way. She tells Velma that she found something at home that might be connected to the murders. She saw their neighbors doing some questionable things. They go back to the house and Sophie tells her what she saw. Yeah, that's not gonna help Amber's case. Velma is now convinced that she's been right about Amber, posts all the evidence she has on social media. Soon, a huge mob forms outside their residence, ready to burn Amber down. Oh good, the witch trials are back. At the same time, William is planning something completely different. He's about to propose to Dia and asks Fred to help him get her ring size. It's great timing. On the other hand, Norville and Daphne reach the asylum and ask to see Dr. Dane Dupree, but the receptionist repeats, Dr. Dane Perdue. Before either of them can react, they're knocked out by, wait, Dr. Edna Perdue? Okay, so she's alive. When they wake up, they find Dr. Perdue standing in front of them. Norville asks her how she managed to be alive for 30 years without anybody finding out. She explains that she had no other option. The military would never leave her alone if they found out she was still alive, especially with the kind of work that she was doing. And by work, I mean she's literally running a brain spa, helping brains understand themselves. I wish I was joking. Back in town, things are getting worse. The mob is seconds away from attacking Amber. Linda and Donna step in and confirm Amber couldn't have done it because she was with them the whole night, which means Velma just accused the wrong person again. Velma tries to calm the mob down, but nothing works, so she turns to the one person who might actually have influence over a crowd, Fred. Fred agrees to talk to the men on one condition. He wants Dia's ring size. Both Sophie and Velma are shocked after learning about William's plans, but Velma agrees to help Fred. By the time they reach the mob, things are out of control. William also shows up and tries to stop everybody by casually admitting he needs Amber to cast a love spell because Dia rejected his proposal. Sir, read the room. Things get even worse when Merle talks to the crowd out of burning Amber, saying it's all social media's fault that they were manipulated into doing this. But people misinterpret his message and tie Velma up since she made the post. Her mom tries to help her, but she gets tied up too. Wow. At the asylum, Dr. Edna Perdue tells Daphne and Norville that she follows a unique procedure when taking somebody's brain out, and the brains Victoria Jones took out might be dying. The only way to save them is to, well, change the solution that they're in ASAP. But she can't do it since she can't leave the asylum. Daphne comes up with a brilliant idea. How about she leaves the asylum? But inside Daphne's body, back with the mob, nothing's working out. Velma's mom says something that gives Velma an idea. If an insecurity could collect a mob, perhaps it can make them stop too. She edits photos of the murdered men with the editing app. Instead of adding the filter on their backs, she edits it targeting their front. When she posts the pictures, Linda and Donna make up the story that the killer is only targeting men with big dongs, so unless anyone has a small one, they can stay. The rest of them can go home since it makes them a target of the killer. Just like that. The whole mob disappears in seconds. Well done, Velma. Daphne ends up switching brains with Dr. Perdue, and at the end we see another murder, and this time, it is the priest of the church. So now that's starting to look like the killer is basically building their own version of Frankenstein using very specific body parts, and only from men. The entire male population is officially terrified, but who's more terrified are their wives and girlfriends.
We're all scared, but Sophie's fear might embarrass me to death!
Oh, forgive me for protecting the things I love.
Now the pressure of solving the case is building on Velma. At school career day, Norville comes rushing and tells Velma about the latest development in the case, that his grandmother is alive and well. Right now, she's inside Daphne's body, having the time of her life, jumping, squatting, and stretching. Shocking. But the most important thing right now is saving the brains, so Norville brings them in, and Velma helps Dr. Perdue create new solutions. Since Dr. S was already working on Dr. Perdue's research, he already has everything available in the lab. However, there's something wrong with the chemicals because that was not supposed to happen. And the bad news is, there's no more glutamine to make more solutions. Take weeks to synthesize more. Dr. Perdue tells Velma that there might be some of her research left from Project Scooby at the military base, so the only option is to get the glutamine from there. She draws Velma a map of the base, sets her off on a mission. Meanwhile, Fred visits the church to return everything he took since he's not religious anymore, but the father is nowhere to be found. Instead, there's a woman waiting in the confession booth. Because Fred has absolutely no sense of boundaries, he pretends to be the priest and starts hearing her confession. Somewhere in that conversation, he starts feeling like he recognizes her, or worse, is attracted to her. Yep, well, I'm not surprised. In the first season, he was just attracted to a bunch of brains. Back at the Dinkleys, Velma asks her dad to talk to Don, his high school friend in the army, to give her a tour of the base, and he agrees. Upon reaching the base, they find Fred hiding in the backseat of the car, and he says he was there just to get relationship advice from Velma on dating older women. Ah, the blind leading the blind. Anyway, Velma gets the tour, and as soon as she gets the chance, she steals Don's key card. She follows the map to the secret lab, and Fred decides to join her, but his phone keeps ringing. Apparently, it's the mystery woman from the booth. They dodge the military somehow and finally get to room 1969. But wait, it's not a laboratory, it's just a storage closet with no glutamine. Velma notices the light coming from the AC duct and asks Fred to hoist her up, and that's when she finds the actual lab. But thanks to Fred's mystery lady calling again and his obnoxiously loud ringtone, they are totally busted. Velma confronts Dawn about the lab and the military still working on Project Scooby. But in the meantime, they replace the lab with a group of people playing cards. Back at the school, Principal Rogers and Daphne, who's actually Principal Rogers' mom and Daphne's body, get into a heated argument. Principal Rogers says she loves her mom, but will never respect her since she was never around. She suspects Daphne from school, and this makes Dr. Perdue realize that she's been extremely selfish all this time. She comes clean to Norville that she lied about not having enough glutamine, and she sent Velma to the base only to check if they're continuing Project Scooby. Both Velma and Fred receive a punishment for breaking the law. Velma ends up dressed as a bush, handing out military enlistment flyers at career day, while Fred is dragged into a military court situation because apparently his face card might help them win sympathy. Dr. Perdue apologizes to Velma for lying to her and hands her the solutions to save the brains, who literally have like 20 seconds now before they die. But Velma makes it in time and saves them. After that, they take Dr. Perdue back to the asylum so they can get Daphne back. But according to the staff, Daphne's brain is missing and is seen being transported by a group of cockroaches. What? So for now, Dr. Perdue will have to pretend to be Daphne for a little bit longer. Fred, who's still at court, receives another call from the mystery woman, and she makes another confession to him. However, it's not the type of confession that we were expecting.
Should I be nervous?
Yes, because I'm the serial killer, and I will keep killing until I get what I want.
So in light of recent events and the serial killer being identified as a woman, again, Linda and Donna lose the election and Merle Cogburn is elected as the new sheriff. And the sheriff has announced that all women in Crystal Cove will temporarily be shifted to the Crystal Mines until the serial killer is caught. Man, Merle is not just the voice twin, but also the brain twin of the late sheriff. What a genius idea again. But Velma has a bigger issue to deal with right now, and that is how to keep Sophie and Dia from killing each other. All the women are at the Crystal Mines now. The grand plan of the sheriff is to keep them there for 48 hours until they can match the voice of the serial killer to one of the women. Daphne's brain is still nowhere to be found, and she's knocked out until someone finds her and puts her back in her body. Inside her mind, though, she has some kind of out-of-body experience with her birth parents who help her find who she is. Meanwhile, Norville figures out that it's not his anxiety that's triggering his hallucinations, but an external factor. It must be Fred, because he feels guilty every time he sees him. He tries telling Fred that his grandmother is alive, could not have possibly possessed his mother. But Fred being Fred doesn't pay any attention at all. Back at the mines, Velma's trying her level best to keep both her mom and Sophie apart. But Sophie keeps dropping the updates on Velma's life that her mother has no clue about. Tia is absolutely pissed that Velma chooses to share her life with Sophie rather than her mother. But according to Velma, it's just easier to talk to Sophie because she rarely passes any judgment. Or rather, she's in no position to judge given her own life choices. This makes Tia realize that a lot of this tension between her and Sophie is actually Aman's fault. So she's going to try to be nicer to Sophie. Daphne's search for herself also takes her back to the crystal mines filled with meaningful memories of her life, where her parents help her pick a memory to take a deep dive into. They land in Daphne's room, where she's sitting with Amber after everything had happened at the seance. Daphne is extremely mad at Velma, and to get back at her, she makes out with Amber. What? Back in the real world, Norville is still trying to make Fred believe that his grandmother's alive when Merle comes up with another genius idea to solve their dispute. A chili cook-off competition. Literally anything other than doing his job and catching the serial killer. After 6 hours of both the boys cooking, Merle declares Fred as the winner. Norville protests, so Merle asks everybody to taste and vote. But before they can reach a conclusion, Norville reveals he added sleeping pills in his chili, and everybody gets knocked out. Inside the mines, Velma is trying to interrogate all the women to collect more information. Sophie and Dia also start bonding, mostly by talking trash about Velma, when a voice erupts from the dark which resembles that of the serial killer. And Amanda's missing. So all three of them go toward it and find Amanda at the end of the cliff. Linda and Donna enter in style and save Amanda in a very heroic way. Velma asks Amanda who the real serial killer is, and she replies with her baby babble box, which is a device the baby can use to communicate. Just go with me here. That there was no serial killer. She was just trying the old woman's voice on her device and she slipped. Wait, does that mean the serial killer also used the device? If that's true, it could be a man too. Double jinkies. Norville smuggles the knocked out Fred to the asylum so he can prove his grandmother is alive and did not possess Victoria. Fred finally believes him, putting an end to Norville's misery. The cockroaches also return Daphne's brain and she's back in her body. And now, she needs to find Velma to tell her about what she did. Velma, on the other hand, gathers all the women and asks them to share anything they know about the victims, and boy, all the gossip of the town comes out. Apparently it was Dawn who made the Babel baby boxes, and they came in a box that had Project Scooby written on it. Dr. S was also heard saying something about Project Scooby, and the coroners once kicked a nurse out of the morgue because they had a meeting with a lawyer. Velma asked the nurse if she saw who this lawyer was, and guess who that could be? Yeah, it's Aman. The women leave the mines while the guards are still knocked out thanks to Norville. Aman is taken into custody since he could be murdered next. Daphne comes back, and the two sort out their differences, only because she conveniently leaves at the part where she kissed Amber. Aman refused to say anything about the murders of Project Scooby. He's clearly hiding something, but just as he's about to crack, Dawn walks in and shuts the whole interrogation down on military authority. Just like that, Aman is placed under house arrest. Back at home, Velma tries again, asking her dad to just tell her the truth for once. But instead of answers, she gets hit with something way worse. Aman and even baby Amanda drop the news that Daphne cheated on her with Amber. Ouch. Velma confides in all of Gigi and the Brains, asking if she should break up with Daphne. The girls tell Velma that she needs to teach Daphne a lesson by being the best girlfriend out there, but also keeping her at a distance. The school is taking the students on a field trip to Sacramento, and apparently the police have no work to do, because Linda and Donna are the tour guides for the trip. Velma doesn't want rumors spreading about her and Daphne, but she's still pretty tempted to emotionally destroy her, so she sits with Gigi instead. During the ride, Velma gets a note asking her to come to the back of the bus. She goes there and finds Aman hiding in the bathroom. He hands her a USB drive that he stole from Don's computer that could potentially tell them why men connected to Project Scooby are dying. Once they reach the museum, Velma tries to ignore Daphne but fails, so she drops her guard. She confronts Daphne about the whole Amber situation and also how she had to find out about it through her dad. Daphne apologizes to Velma and the two patch things up. Anyway, Aman tells them that a few months ago, Mr. S came to him and revealed that all the victims were secretly working for Project Scooby. He also mentioned a specific soldier who made everybody uncomfortable at work. Never got the name of the particular soldier, so he stole the information from Don's computer and his USB and got here. They insert the USB in a computer, and the files show one soldier who's missing a name and some other info about him like his white sneakers. Yeah, that's our guy. Back at the hall, Olive, who now suddenly thinks ghosts are real, apologizes to Amber for both not believing her earlier and also for telling Velma to destroy Daphne for hooking up with her. Amber says she never hooked up with Daphne. Instead, Daphne asks her to put a curse on Velma, and that's what they were doing. That's even worse than cheating. Before Daphne can explain, the military makes an appearance. Aman, Velma, and the gang make an exit for the back door, steal a school bus, and Aman takes the wheel. After a little cat and mouse chase, Dawn catches up and Aman finally stops the bus. Velma confronts Dawn for lying about Project Scooby, but Dawn tells her the truth this time. After Dr. Edna Purdue was gone, the project was continued. Instead of putting the soldiers' brains into the anti-war kids, they were just keeping tabs on them. Until one day, the military saw Dia reading Dr. Purdue's journal at the restaurant. The operative who saw Dia took her photo but hid her identity and went by the name Uncle Scooby. With his help, the military tried to create a super soldier to infiltrate the meddling kids, but the experiment did not go very well. Where is Howard Stark when you need him? That very soldier started making the men feel super uncomfortable at the base and is now the main suspect of the murders as well. On their way back to school, Daphne opens up about how she felt after Velma said all those mean things to her after the seance. She asked Amber to put a curse on her so that Velma would die alone and no one would love her. Yeah, I know it's so mean, but all's fair in love and war, right? Strangely, their conversation helps Velma gain some clarity on the killer's profile, but before she can share it with her friends, the bus is attacked by something, and it takes Velma with it. When Velma wakes up, she's locked inside a prison, and the creature that took her is an ugly-looking dog who calls himself Scrappy. Linda and Donna help the students get safely out of the bus, but with Velma gone, who's going to solve the mystery now? Aman comes back with the military and announces he will find his daughter himself, but so does William. And soon the whole thing turns into an Aman versus William versus Dia versus Sophie thing instead. So Velma's friends decide it's up to them to save her. Scrappy tells Velma that he did not kill those men, it's just a lab experiment that didn't go according to plan. The only reason he took Velma is because he needs help catching the actual killer who's responsible for framing him. According to him, the killer is Dawn. Velma doesn't believe him, but I low-key do. Scrappy lets Velma out of the prison. Instead of listening to him, she runs for her life. Scrappy catches up to her and pleads for her just to listen. But Velma already knows half the story of how he was born or created. He tells her that the same Uncle Scooby who came up with the idea of creating a super soldier is now missing. And it was Dawn who attacked Velma in the graveyard. Dawn has hated Scrappy since the beginning, mostly because he chewed all of his sneakers, which makes his hate logical. And he's the one who gave him the name Scrappy that just means shit and crappy. But his hatred grew so much they made everybody on the team sign a petition to get rid of Scrappy. When everyone declined, he started killing them one by one. Back in the woods, the gang is still running in circles trying to find Velma, when out of nowhere an ambulance crashes out of the darkness driven by none other than Dr. Purdue. She asks Fred if she can use the secret lab in his basement, and before he can say anything, Velma emerges from the bushes and faints. Daphne stays with Velma while the rest of them escape with Dr. Purdue. She takes Velma to the medical facility, and Dawn asks her how she escaped the serial killer. Velma says she was just lost in the woods and never saw anybody there. Aman is beaming with joy for having found Velma before William, but watching William look for Velma and caring for her like his own child. It makes Dia so emotional that she considers saying yes to William's proposal if Velma is okay with it. Velma says yes, and the pair get engaged. Sophie, on the other hand, is not okay, because somehow Dia is about to get married before Sophie even got a proposal. Back at Fred's home, the news about Dia and William getting engaged completely breaks out, and that's when the ghost of Victoria loses its mind and reveals itself to everybody. Velma tells Daphne about Scrappy and everything she learned about Dawn. Daphne doesn't exactly buy the story about Scrappy, but she has to be on Velma's side. Velma plans a bachelor party for her dad because she thinks it's high time he proposes to Sophie, and they will also use it as an excuse to get Dawn away from all his guards. Victoria's ghost starts talking to everybody and says when she realized she's not just a hallucination but actually a ghost, she thought she'd hang around a little longer to try and help Fred become the man that she wanted him to be.
A hug.
Well, I guess some things never change. But soon she realizes that if she wants to make Fred do what she wants, she can just possess him. Fred's soul and Victoria's ghost fight for Fred's body, but Fred fights his way back and pushes her away. That makes Victoria's unfinished business complete, and she says Fred has become the man she always wanted him to be. If he can stand up to her, he can do anything. And she finally goes to where she belongs. Hell. Back with Velma, she pushes her dad to propose to Sophie. Turns out he already did, and Sophie said no, because she wants an emotional prenup signed by Velma first. Velma agrees to everything, and Sophie finally says yes. But she wants to get married before Dia, so the bachelor party is on, baby! Wait, just 3 people in a limo? That's the party? Velma takes everybody to Nana's nipple. There, Scrappy comes out of the cake and attacks Dawn. He confesses that he actually lied to Velma, and he's the one who killed all the men. Velma says she's always known that, so she hits him with one thing he's scared of the most: vacuum cleaners. Even after being cornered, Scrappy doesn't budge. He informs Velma that all of this drama was just a distraction for his friends, meaning other dogs, to get what he wanted: the bodies of Brenda, Lola, and Krista, so Uncle Scooby can run away with it. Anyway, Scrappy gets arrested, but at the end, we see Dr. Purdue receiving the bodies. Oh no. Uncle Scooby pays Velma a visit and tells her to stop looking for him or her whole family will die. Velma asks for advice from the people who might be not the best at giving advice: Linda, Donna, and Dawn. Their solution is to find Uncle Scooby before he breaks Scrappy out of jail. Meanwhile, life moves on in Crystal Cove because apparently we have priorities. Sophie announces that both couples are getting married in 1 week at Fred's house. So now, in the middle of a serial killer situation, we're planning a double wedding as well. Velma decides the best way to continue her investigation without being watched is to switch brains with Daphne. They head down to the lab in the basement at Fred's and start the process. And just like that, Velma is Daphne, and Daphne is Velma. While that's happening, Dr. Perdue, who's doing God knows what with the bodies of the hot girls, is trying to hide from everybody. Then reliable old Norville catches her. Lola's brain recognizes her body on the stretcher, but Dr. Perdue lies that she's preparing the bodies so she can help put the brains back, but asks her to not tell anybody about this yet.
But what if you, put Lola's brain back for just, an hour?
Guys!
10 minutes. We're begging you.
Velma and Daphne head out on their own mission. Daphne, being Velma, will be the center of attention at the biggest wedding in town, and Velma, as Daphne, can continue her investigation. Velma experiences an overwhelming response from strangers because, she looks like Daphne now. On the other side, no one is actually giving Daphne the attention that she usually gets. They both meet up again and decide to switch back to their own bodies because none of them have made any progress. Velma finds out through Brenda and Krista that they're soon getting their bodies back thanks to Dr. Perdue. Which is strange because Uncle Scooby is supposed to have the bodies, right? Velma confronts Grandmother Perdue of being Uncle Scooby. She admits to everything, saying that after experiencing life in Daphne's body, she realized how old and limited her own body had become. So when Uncle Scooby offered her a deal, help him escape, she gets a new body, she took it. Desperate times, people. Right then, Uncle Scooby shows up. He already knows everything about Velma and Daphne swapping bodies. He knocks Velma out, throws her into the machine, and extracts her brain into a jar. But in classic Velma fashion, something goes wrong. The jar tips over, the fluid spills, and Velma gets pulled into that weird brain void space just like Daphne. Upstairs, wedding chaos continues. Fred is now his dad's best man. Velma is missing. Sophie thinks Velma's disappeared because she wants to ruin the wedding, so she calls it off. Back in the lab, Norville and Lola spot Dr. Perdue with the same sneaker from the cemetery attacker. She admits that she's helping Uncle Scooby escape and using the sneaker to signal Scrappy. Oh, and yes, Scrappy's already escaped, possibly killed the new sheriff too. Won't say I'm necessarily sad about that. Inside that weird brain space, Velma calls out to Daphne. Somehow she listens and wakes up. Daphne helps Velma get back into her body, and they share a moment where they both confess that they love each other. I guess. And again, that helps Velma figure out who Uncle Scooby actually is for the 100th time. I swear, Velma, if you accuse another wrong person again, I'm totally done. Velma barges into her room. She actually finds Uncle Scooby there, but he grabs Daph and puts a gun to her head. Velma tells him to go ahead and shoot her if he can, but he doesn't, tries to run. Amber knocks him out with a chair and they tie him up. Everybody joins in for the unmasking ceremony, and gosh, I've never been so excited to see who it actually is. Any guesses, guys? Velma says when Uncle Scooby attacked her at the cemetery, he could have killed her, but he didn't. Somehow he's the only person who's kept his identity hidden. Because when Velma spent 2 days in Daphne's body, she understood that being pretty comes with a lot of problems. So the killer must be somebody who needed to disguise their hotness.
So Uncle Scooby is hot and loves you. Is it Jesus?
No, Fred, but good try. Well, Uncle Scooby is Sophie. What? Turns out she used to be in the army, but they assigned her the worst possible job to be a waitress at Spooner's to keep an eye on the meddling teenagers. Really? She hated her job to the core. But one day, she saw Dia reading Dr. Perdue's journal and took a photo. She read the research and figured out that they could build a talking dog with it and kids would love it. The only way her seniors were ready to hear her pitch was over dinner and dancing. She hid her identity, wore this outfit so their objectification was nullified, and they took her seriously. They called her Uncle Scooby. However, Scrappy turned out to be a monster, and the superiors backed out from the project, leaving Sophie alone with it. Sophie feared Scrappy would hurt her or her family, so she started covering the murders. Gotta say, that's gotta be one of the worst reveals I've ever seen. Now, the only way to put an end to this is for Dr. Perdue to put Scrappy in one of the dead girls, which is not possible anymore because Dr. Perdue had a change of heart and put the brains back into their bodies. Scrappy then arrives at the venue and starts killing people. Dawn comes to the rescue in the military jet and rescues everybody by flying them away. Well, everybody except Velma. She stays back to kill Scrappy, but he attacks her and pushes her down the balcony. Dawn hits Scrappy with a missile, making a huge explosion that destroys everything. Well, everything except that evil dog. As he makes his way towards everybody, he suddenly stops. And oh wait, that's what happened to Fred when Victoria tried to possess his body. Next thing we know, Scrappy's dead. And the ghost that emerges out of it is Velma?
By me.
Velma! You're dead!
Yeah.
She's actually dead. Dr. Perdue tries everything but fails to find a way to put Velma back in her body. So she's got two choices now. Either stay here as a ghost or return to the ghost world and make new friends. She chooses to stay, of course, and Amber says she can try and bring her back with magic, but this is only possible on Halloween. It's Halloween in Crystal Cove, which means costume parties and apparently bringing your dead best friend back to life. Velma's entire squad, friends, family, Amber, and her witchy mom, trying to resurrect her. It's just not working. Daphne's especially desperate because she wants Velma to be her date for the sexy Halloween party. Amber's mom says her magic is too weak to help Velma come back. She needs to use a powerful spell from a powerful book, but but she already donated the one she had since the book started controlling her mind. Dia asks her where the book is because she wants her daughter back at any cost. Plus, they only have 19 hours till Halloween is over. So they head down to the Historical Society to get the book, but leave Fred behind because the last time they all left Velma alone, his cleaning lady threw her body out. As they enter the building, things go from bad to worse when they find the dead body of an old woman in a sexy cat costume. Linda and Donna start investigating the murder and reach a conclusion that it was the Black Knight who killed the old woman. Daphne says the Black Knight is a made-up story to stop kids from going to the sexy Halloween party, but Evelyn confirms that the legend is actually real. It goes back to the very first sexy Halloween party where only sexy people were allowed in. One particular loser was wearing a Black Knight costume, took offense to being thrown out. He tried sneaking in, but was caught by the cool kids who chased him down, pushed him off a cliff, and he died. Now, every few years, somebody dies in a falling accident, and it's believed that it is the ghost who's pushing them. Anyway, the elders are extremely against the idea of a sexy party and want the kids to go to the unsexy party at the school gym. Velma calls Daphne to the side to tell her she found the evil spell book, or technically, the book found her and tried to speak to her. Daphne doesn't pay much attention since she has errands to run for the sexy party, so she asks Velma to grab the book and meet her later. You know, priorities. Velma tries to get to the book, but that's when the ghost of the Black Knight shows up and forces her to run away. Back at Fred's, William tries to throw out Velma's body because, I get it, it's uncomfortable having a dead body in your giant walk-in freezer. Lola dresses Norville as a rat for Halloween. A rat with a crop top, to be exact. Daphne has invited Saweetie to perform at the party, but she's a condition to perform. She's no backup dancer, so she needs Daphne and the girls to perform with her. Fred calls everybody together to meet in the graveyard. Velma tells everyone that she couldn't get the book because she was attacked by the ghost of the Black Knight. Daphne doesn't believe her, but Fred has an announcement to make. He already bought an audiobook copy of the Evil Magic book for $5,000. Okay, so they start listening to it.
One eternity later.
After going over all the spells, evil spell number 74 finally tells them what they need to get Velma back. First, Velma has to call for her ascension light, then they need to draw a triangle on the ground, and then they need to recite the spell together.
World, let Velma cross back over.
The triangle starts glowing, but then it stops. The audiobook guy says that they forgot to mention the most important thing, that before the spirit can enter their body again, each person must successfully face their greatest fear. A triangle will appear on their wrist. Once they overcome their fear, the triangle will disappear and the light will carry Velma into her body. Daphne's triangle appears when Velma says she might have to cancel the party, because her fear is FOMO. It's also when Black Knight's ghost appears and drags Daphne to the same cliff that he was thrown off from. Velma tells him to pick anybody from the party but leave Daphne alone. But he says he doesn't want to kill Daphne, he just wanted Velma's attention and help. He wants to find his killer, who also might be the one who's killing people on Halloween as the Black Knight. One last mystery to solve. Daphne tells Velma that there's only 3 hours left in Halloween, so she needs to do this fast. They head to the school to check the yearbooks to see the popular kids from back then. Fred finds his dad dressed up as a bodyguard at the graveyard. He tells him that he got a job in security since his business is almost as good as dead after the recent events. So they're kind of poor now. That's when Fred's triangle appears because his fear is doing a job. Norville's triangle appears when he tells Lola he loves her because he doesn't want to hurt her. But then he immediately says that he wants to break up. Yet the triangle does not go away, which means he needs to hurt somebody that he cares about. Ouch. Talking to Jeff, the Black Knight, Velma realizes that her greatest fear might be being forgotten after she dies, just like everybody forgot Jeff and moved on. And Daphne's already distracted because all she can think about is the stupid party. Velma gets disappointed and thinks there's no point in doing this, and she should just pass on. So she calls on her light, and as she's moving up, Daphne grabs her hand to bring her down. But instead, Daphne's soul is taken out of her body too, and she starts ascending to heaven as well. Jeff saves them both, and drags them out of the light. Velma realizes her triangle is gone because she faced her fear of being descended. The Black Knight hands Velma the school yearbook, and the cool kids that threw him down are actually all of their parents. They enter the scene right then and see the ghosts. Saweetie appoints Fred as a guard to protect her, but he can't help just giving orders to everybody. You know what they say, old habits die hard. Back at the school, the parents say that at the party, Jeff was watching everyone make out like a pervert, so they chased him and tripped him at the edge, which made him fall off the cliff. It was an accident. They didn't do it on purpose. But Jeff says he heard someone say push him. Velma thinks this might be related to the evil book and the killer might kill tonight again. She takes everyone to the sexy party and tells them to find someone who might be dressed in a Black Knight outfit. Daphne refuses to attend the concert. That's when her triangle also goes away. The Black Knight, who has already knocked out Fred and Norville, tries to move to the stage to kill Saweetie, but Fred wakes up and saves her. His triangle also goes away because he does his job. The real killer tries to run away, and everyone runs after to catch him. They trip again and fall, but Jeff saves them. Velma unmasks the killer, and it is Evelyn. She was corrupted by the dark magic book, which demanded fear and blood sacrifice. But over time, people stopped fearing Halloween, so she started creating it herself by killing people to keep the magic alive. Now with only a few minutes left in Halloween, Velma still needs to get back to her body. But Norville's triangle is still there, so she breaks Evelyn's heart by saying he won't be writing to her in jail, and that's when a light and big triangle appears on the ground. Before Velma can enter it, Evelyn throws Jeff in there, and he returns to his body that's been in the water for 35 years. Evelyn starts chanting a spell to raise an army of zombies, and just like that, the graveyard turns into a full-on horror scene with the dead crawling out of everywhere. Velma, somehow still thinking like a detective, comes up with an idea. If fear is what fuels all of us, then maybe confidence can fight it. So she tells everybody to lean into whatever makes them feel their best, confident, and sexiest self. So they all do that. Yeah, even solving math problems is sexy. For a moment, it actually works. The zombies slow down, but they're still coming. So the last option Velma has is to die again. She calls the light once again and takes Evelyn with her. But Evelyn is going into hell, so she drags Velma down with her, and just like that, she's gone. Velma's funeral is being held at the cemetery when Daphne hears Velma calling out to her. She opens the casket and...
Oh my god, I'm alive! But how?
In the post-credits, we see Fred has been listening to the evil book this whole time, and he's now being controlled by it. Maybe, I don't know, he's the one who brought Velma back. But I guess we'll never know for sure because the next season got canceled. Wow, what garbage that was. Okay, yeah, that was Velma. Wild, creepy, low-key problematic, and just across the board, deeply lazy. Anyway, if you are interested in recaps that cover much better content, click on the video on screen, and we'll see you later. See you next time. See ya.